Hello, everyone. It's Michael from Functional Solutions, and we're going to do Smart Suite Library Administration, and we're going to do administration tips and tricks and question and answers. So, if you've got a question or answer, go to the right hand side of your screen, and up the top, you can ask me anything at all and we will address the questions that you have. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to deal with today is we're going to deal with patron logins. So, how do I manage my patron login? Okay, now to be able to log in, you've got a button up the top that says sign in or sign out. So, you need to sign in to be able to do anything other than just search. So if you want to catalog, if you want to create patrons, delete patrons, run reports, do anything, even reserve or play a video, you have to be signed in to do that. And of course, you sign in with the top right hand side of your screen. Now, when you actually sign in, what are we looking for? Okay, so uh, the way that it would work is that you need to be logged in with appropriate rights. Okay, so let me deal with the patron record to start with. Okay, so you sign in on the top right hand side. Okay, it'll ask you for a username and password. So let me just go through the process over here so you can see what I mean. I'm going to sign out and we're going to now go sign in. Now, if your school has single sign on, well, what single sign on do we use? We don't care. As long as it is an industry standard single sign on, we will single sign on with any single sign on system that you want to choose to use. Okay, if you're not, you need to put in your username and you need to put in your password. Okay, and let's deal with the password in a minute. So you go log in, and if your password's correct, it'll log you in. So where are these passwords set? All right, so let's have a look at the patron record. Okay, so when I click in here, I come down to patron and I go to patron management, and that's where the password's set. Now, obviously, this is YouTube, so we're not going to show you how to get into the behind the screen systems to determine the layout of a password. But there is a very, very high level option that when you define the layout, and you can define any layout you like, or if you just can't be bothered, why not just send us an email and say, I would like to define my password layout as it must have three capital letters, three numeric numbers, and one sign. And it can be in any order. Or you might turn and say, no, it has to start with a capital. It must have an underscore, and it must have at least three other letters or five other letters and two other digits. So you can tell us the format. And so when you tell us that format, and when you click change password or create password, and you put it in here, if it doesn't comply with the format that you have nominated, okay, it's not going to work. Now, obviously, you want to be able to not make it difficult for people to use and have a very complex system. But your IT department or even your Department of Education might nominate that all passwords have to be in this particular format. That's up to you. Once you do that, we'll set it for you so that when you come in to change the password, if it doesn't comply to that format, it is not going to happen. Okay, so that's what you do for creating passwords on the system. Now, what happens? Let me sign out again and let me sign in. So here I am. I'm coming along and I'm Jack and I click sign in. Okay, now if I put my username there and I forgot my password, you can click on forgot my password. Okay, And what that will do is it'll then take you to another screen, and we will from that screen then give you a few options, and we can send your password resetting option. We won't ask you for a password. We'll send you an option where you'll need to open up your email, and then you will need to be able to nominate the password that you want to put. You might just want to change your password, but you can click change password, and that'll do it as well. Okay, so the individual user has full control over their passwords that they're going to use to log in. But of course, if you're single sign-on, you have no control over your username and no control over your password either. That's already been set by your Department of Education or your IT department, and we will just comply. And basically, when you give us a username and password, when you're clicking that sign in option up there, we just send that off encrypted to your login system, and it just gives us a token back to say this particular user is authorized or not authorized, and that's it. And we have no control. So if you're authorized, you're in. If you're not authorized, you're not in. So once you're in, what functionality do you have? That's very, very important. So if you click on the menu and you come down to the patron screen and you go to patron management, every individual patron has a certain amount of functionality. And if you look at the roles, see, I've got all these things I can do, all these functions, okay? Almost anything. Let me just sign out, and let me now have a look. Once I've signed out of the system, let me show you what roles. So I can come in here and I can search. Give me a list of all the books on cats. So you can search anything without signing in. But what functionality do you have? Can you reserve? Can you list? Can you create? Whatever. Click on there. You can see you've got no options. So all you can do is search. That's it. You can say, okay, so when I log in, okay, what can I go ahead and search? So you can go ahead and you can search for, you can allocate any functionality. So SS demo. Okay, so once you're logged in, so to have a look at what menu items and what role, what functions that you can access, you still have to go back to the patron screen, back to patron management. And in the patron management screen, there's this thing called role. I've been set as an administrator, so I can do almost anything. What other roles are there? So just click in here, anywhere along here, and that will display the roles. Now, if it didn't come up, just exit out and click back in here again. See, no results found. So just exit out, click back here again, and it'll reload and it'll refresh that. Okay, so you can be an administrator. You can be just a cataloger, just a cataloger. You can be someone that only works on the circulation desk. Okay, and you can be a librarian. You can be a person who can only edit patron records or circulation. Or so this is totally irrespective of the password that you have and the username that you have. So the role that you have will determine the functionality that you've got. Okay. However, let's say for argument's sake that you want to be able to give someone the role of a cataloger and a circulation desk. That's it. So you can add more than one role. You know, get rid of the administrator. So they can catalog and they can circulate, but that's about it. Obviously, they can search, but they can't do anything else. Okay. And whatever roles you give them, please remember to save it. Okay. And then when they log in, the menu item that will come up here will be appropriate to the roles that they have. So that is very, very, very important. Okay, now one of the things that is in the patron record, okay, is, well, how many items can they borrow and can I restrict their borrowing? Restrict? Well, what we mean by restrict is, can they borrow senior fiction? Can they borrow teachers' resources? Can they borrow cameras? So how do I restrict what they can borrow and how much they can borrow? Well, just like you have a role that determines what activity they can do on the system, okay, their class grade Very, very. The homeroom is just for running reports. That's all it does. Okay. But the class grade determines their activity level. So it determines how much they can borrow, what they can borrow, and for how long they can borrow. All of that is done in the class grade. Okay. So have a look at here where it says security 50. We'll come back to security in a minute. The security 50, what the security means is what material can they have access to. So as an example, if I had digital content, TV for education on the system, and I only want them to watch material that is appropriate for years 7 and below, then that security level would need to be 7 and below. Okay. If you wanted them to be able to watch material for year 10s and below, then that'll be 10. If that security level needs to be okay for year 12s and below, it'll need to be 12. If the security level was a teacher, then we go. So basically, the security level corresponds to their year level. Okay. So you go from 0, which means they can look at only stuff that is appropriate for preps. Okay, year ones for year 1 and above, year 5s for year 5s and below, and year 12s they can look at material for year 12 and below. 50 they can look at everything for teacher, and of course administrators 999. You want to be able to look at everything that teachers are even trying to put onto the system. Okay, so where is that security level set? So see how I've got staff. So let me get rid of the staff. Let me click out of there to refresh it. Click in here again. And let me go in here and say that's a year 7. It's a year 7 student. Okay, now the year 7 student, what it would have done was I'm not saving that record because I don't want to give it that. But when I save that record, then the security level for year 7 will be 7. That's what it's going to show up there. It'll show up as a year 7. If I put 8, then it'll be 8. If I said 12, it'll be 12. If I said 50, a teacher or staff member or cataloger or circulation, but then it will be 50. Okay, so where are these levels set? And also a year 7 can only borrow 3 books, a year 10 can borrow 5 books, a year 12 can borrow 15 books, a teacher can borrow 300 books. Where are all those parameters set for the individual class grade? Okay, that's very, very important. So I'm going to show you where you can go and set anything in regards to their borrowing limit for a year 7. So the way you do it is you have to be an administrator or a librarian. So you click on menu, you need to come down to configuration, okay, and scroll up. See how before it was just down there and you think, oh, I've only got those 3. No, scroll the screen up so you can see all the other functions you've got. We are going to go to the authority editor. Why the authority editor? Because we have to look at the authority file for the year 7s, or the authority file for the year 12, or the authority file for the staff, or the authority file for a catalog, and so forth and so on. So the way we do it is menu, okay, then configuration, and then authority editor. So when you click on the authority editor, what it's going to do is it's going to bring up all the authority files, and you go, but I can only see 1. Yeah, that's right, because it's an alphabetic sequence. So if you click that, there's all your different authority files. You can, so I can go to the subject authority file and the author's authority. Yeah, absolutely. But we're only interested in class grade. Okay, that's all we're interested in. So if I click the class grade, it'll bring me up all my year levels. Okay, and if you go, but I haven't got a temp teacher and I want to create a temp teacher or itinerant teacher. Well, if you want to create a new one, just type in here and then click that plus. And what it will do is it'll then take you to the next screen. So I'm going to look at the year 7's borrowing limit. So if you want to check on an existing one, you go to the existing one and click the pencil, or you type in a new one, click the plus, and it'll take you to this screen. So here's the year 7's. So when I click on the year 7, it says, if I gave someone a class grade of 7, their security will be 7. Their final borrowing date is when you want the books back in the library. So I want them back on the 1st of December because I'm going to do a stock take on the 2nd. So that's it. So if they come and borrow a book and they borrow a book on the 30th of November, okay, the loan period is 150 days. That's a bit ridiculous. No, they should only borrow for 7 days. and their renewal period, if they renew it, they can renew it for 7. So if Johnny comes and he borrows a book on the 30th of November, it'll calculate 7 days. However, it'll say, yes, I know it's 7 days. However, the librarian wants the books back by this date, so it'll cut back and only allow them to borrow it up until the 1st of December. But of course, we're in August, so it makes no difference. They can borrow for 7 days, so it'll take it to the 6th of September. Okay. The expiry date, what's that? Well, I reckon work out whenever you're going to retire and then add another 10 years to it and make that the expiry date so you never have to ever worry about that. The system needs it, but most schools never use it. So I just say make it far into the future so you never have to worry about it. Okay. The only time it becomes important if this was a year 12 student and you know that year 12 don't come back to school after the 15th of uh, August or 15th of July. So you'll expire them. And what it means, if there are stragglers in the school from year 12 and they come to then borrow books, it'll give you an error and say, this guy's either expired or going to expire. So please do not give him any material. You won't get it back. That's what that is. Okay. How many books they can borrow, how long they can borrow from, for 7 days. Okay. Now, so on the circulation desk, it'll automatically only give them 7 days. If you allow patrons to do their own borrowing, okay, like a lot of primary schools do, you don't have to worry because as soon as they borrow it, they won't be able to borrow more than 8 books. They will not be able to borrow it for more than 7 days. Can they renew it? Can students renew it? Absolutely. If you allow them to renew from home, then they just have a book that's coming up for renewal. They can just go renew and it'll renew it as long as it's not overdue. If it's overdue, it says, no, 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 no. You can't renew it. You have to go and see your teacher because the book is already overdue. Okay, so that's the limit on that. But you can turn around and say they can renew their books twice. Okay, or they can only renew their books once, or no, they cannot renew it. They have to come and see me. So if you allow them to renew it, or you renewed it on the circulation desk, it'll automatically renew it for 7 days. And bearing in mind, if you've logged on as an administrator and you're on circulation desk and it renews for 7 days and they say, we're going away, we're going to Perth or whatever on holidays, we won't be back for 6 weeks. So you can override whatever parameter is you put in here. So when you click renew, and if it only renews it for 7 days, you can change that date for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years if you want. Okay, that's what that is for. Now, reserve limit. If you allow them to reserve books on the web, so instead of a year 7 just going reserve, 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 and just renewing it, reserving everything just for the fun of it, you can say, no, they can only reserve 2 books. And that's it. Okay, so that's what the reserve is. Multiple copies. How does multiple copies work? Okay, so you're a year 12 student and you are doing maths assignment, and we have 30 books in the library and we have 20 kids in the school in year 12 doing this level of maths. The kid has left the book at home, so they come to school and they go, don't worry about it, I just borrow another one from the library. Well, because you haven't got multiple copies ticked, this particular student will never be able to borrow the same copy of a book. Okay, so that's what it's for. You can't just leave a book at home and borrow another copy of the book and disadvantage other students. However, if you said that they can have multiple copies, well, why would you do that? Teachers, remember, teachers come with a bucket and they might borrow 20 copies of the same maths book. Well, you need to say that they can have multiple copies. Otherwise, every time you check out the next barcode, it'll say they've already got a copy. Do you want to override? You go, yes. Put next barcode. They've already got a copy. Do you want to override? Yes. So if you just had multiple copies, you won't get prompted with that on everyone. Okay. Now, what about patron override? Patron override, you'll never tick these for students. You'll only tick them for teachers. Patron override. So if this was a staff member, all right, so let me just go ahead and save that record. Remember, whatever changes you do, remember to save it. Okay. Now let me go and have a look at a staff's borrowing. Okay, so let's go to staff. All right, so the staff can borrow 200 books. They can borrow for 365 days, and they can renew it, renew 200 items. and they can renew for another 365 days. They can reserve 1,000 books. So they can have multiple copies. Patron override. What that means is if they go and borrow a fiction book, and a fiction book or a teacher's resource or a very expensive book that you flagged as an overnight loan, well, they can only get it for overnight. However, overnight means only one, but they've got 365 days. So you have to say the patron can override the book limit. That's what that is for. They can override that book limit. So if the book limit is overnight, because you said override, they can now borrow that item for 365 days. That's what that's for. Okay, so that's very important. So that's on the patron side. So a little trick on I've got this collection and I only want year 12s to borrow these books, or I only want teachers to borrow the teachers' resources. How do I set them up? Easy. Let's go into the catalog. Okay, and just like we have a security level for every patron, we have a security level for every catalog record. Okay, really, really simple. So let me just have a look at this catalog record. So there it is. Okay, Margaret Atwood, Cat's Eye. Guess what? That has a security of 0, which means anybody can borrow it. However, I go, no, 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 no. You need to be at least a year 7 to be able to borrow that. If I save that, and if a year 6 came to borrow that at circulation desk, it'll pop an error and say, it's out of their security range. Don't give it to them, but you can override that and give it to them. Do you want to override? And you go, no, and then that's it. So if it's a senior fiction, you might make it 12. Okay, and then go save. So all of a sudden, you have to be at least a year 12. Now, what if it's a teacher's resource? Well, then it's 50. So you need to be at least a teacher. You go, oh, you mean to say I can grab a bunch of books and then go through them and make them all like year 10s because they're senior fiction, and all the teacher's resources make them 50? Yeah. You turn around and say, yes, but I have literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these books. How do I go about do I have to do them all individually? No, you don't. Okay. So if you want to do something globally, and it really doesn't matter what you want to do on the collection and how you want to change the data, we have global functions, which is not the point of this training, to show you how to use global functions to be able to change absolutely anything on the system. So if you want to do any global functions at all, why not let us do it for you? It's easy. Okay. Well, how do you do that? Okay. So the first thing that you would do is, if you want to do any global functions, let me just go straight to the normal login screen, the search screen. Okay. And there's a number of ways that you can do it. I want to do it from the main menu rather than from the cataloging screen. Okay. So if you come in over here and you want to change, you want to ask for us to do some global functions or anything, you might say, oh, Michael didn't teach me about this or didn't show me this, and I was expecting this, and I have no questions that's been raised. But if you want any of that sort of information, or you want help, click on the menu, click on the mailbox, okay, and send us a request. Go create a ticket, and in here say, I need to globally set security for my collection. It's the teacher's resource and senior fiction. My name is, my number is, give us your email and say, my email is, please ring me between 3 and 5 any Tuesday or Thursday. Okay, and then you just go send, and guess what? That's exactly what we'll do. Okay, or you can go from security, you can go, I want support. So I want to have a look at training videos. I want to join the functional solutions community, or I want to get into the quick start guide, or I just want to contact support. Okay, now you can create a tech note, or if you don't want to do any of that, guess what? Let me just open up here a blank document, and you can contact us at okay. So why would you contact us here? Well, let's say for argument's sake that for whatever reason you cannot log into the system. So you can't create a tech note then. So that's what you do. Or why not give us a call and we'll help you out there as well. Okay. So thank you very much for this opportunity to go through just some of the tricks. We've gone through security, and we've gone through the patron record, and we've gone through setting passwords up for people. It's Michael signing off. Thank you very much.